Welcome to the Socialist, where I will put a socialist perspective on political matters. Our first clip today comes from Economic Helps Global. Link in the description.
And boosts GDP. But if we look at real GDP per capita, it has been growing at a much slower rate, and this is important for determining living standards. If we look at real wage growth, the pandemic saw a significant decline in real wages, taking living standards all the way back to 2010. The government estimate real wages won't regain the pre-pandemic level until 2028. The crunch in living standards is quite a shock for an economy used to high living standards. It hasn't helped that inflation has been stubbornly high, requiring interest rates to be higher than the past decade. This has significantly increased the cost of mortgage payments, and this is a real problem in Australia because household debt is 183% of disposable income. This high level of debt reflects the rapid growth in house prices and the need for households to take out bigger mortgages. This has really distorted the economy and even caused social unrest. Whilst high housing costs is a global phenomenon, Australia is in a league of its own. In the worst affordable cities, prices are 13.8 times median income. Even in the most affordable cities, prices are still 6.8 times income, almost twice as expensive as the US. In 1990 in Australia, house prices were 9 years of average earnings. Now they cost 16 and a half years. That's equivalent to an extra $167,000. Rents have been rising through the roof. Affordability is the worst it's ever been, with 10% of Australians spending more than 60% of their income on rent. It has led to a housing crisis, with homelessness rates rising, and the biggest cause of rising homelessness is unaffordable rent.
Well, that all sounds very bleak, and he's about to go into what's caused this crisis and how it happened. And it's very good, and he hits on a lot of the big points, and I ask you to watch it. It's really very good. But he does miss out on one of the most important factors that is affecting house prices in Australia and in a lot of the English Western world. That government has stopped investing in social housing. As a socialist, I want an economy that works for us, the citizens, not the few, not the wealthy, but everybody. Now, in Australia, housing can be as expensive as 16 times the average wage. Now, I have a plan to bring housing back to 3 or 4 times the average wage. And it is exactly the same plan that we did in the past. Now, to explain the plan, I'll tell you about the history. So in the 1930s, there was this thing called the Great Depression, and it was horrible. And it was worldwide again. And we had slums. We had tent cities popping up in big cities everywhere. And people couldn't afford groceries anymore. And at the time, there was no political help. But the Labor Party emerged as saviours, and they put all of the blame on the landlords. The landlords were stealing from the people. Now, Labor are the landlords. It took a little while. In the start, at 1930, there was some supply issues and labour issues. And then World War II broke out, and our boys went off. When they came home, they found a nation that they couldn't afford to live in, with no homes for them. These hard, strong men that had military training and knew how to take care of themselves. They also saw what happened to Mussolini. I think the government was afraid. And I think that they solved a problem not because they didn't know how before that, because they didn't want to. We started the golden age of Australian housing from 1945 to 1975. In this time, the government built homes with their own workers and then sold those homes or rented them below market value. This, adding to supply and also undercutting competitors, drove prices down and made housing a human right in Australia. It was the high point of our civilization. In 1975, from what I can tell, there seems to have been some sort of mass media campaign where they pointed out that some of the people that were in these houses weren't as poor as they should be. As a knee-jerk reaction, it would appear that we just stopped looking after anyone. We stopped building social homes, we stopped renting them out, and the monkey started banging on the drum. The time bomb started ticking. And it was only a matter of time until we got here. Houses were unaffordable in the 90s. They have gotten ridiculous. My goal is to drag house prices back to 3 or 4 times the average income. So without wage rises, that's a house in Sydney for under $300,000. That seems reasonable. That is an achievable goal for our young people. An achievable goal that was the life of our grandparents. To solve the labour shortage, it's much simpler. First, send in the army. This is what the government does in a crisis. They are supposed to help us. That's why we pay taxes. If you still cannot meet the building requirements to save a generation, enlist them. National service, 2 years. They don't pick up a gun, they pick up a hammer. They would build the houses that they will likely end up living in. As far as national service goes for young people, if all young people do it together, there's no competitive advantage against someone that went straight to uni. So you all move together as a cohort, there's no advantage. 2, it should be enjoyable. There shouldn't be a heavy workload, and it should be mixed with lots of social encounters. We should encourage our young people to reproduce. Thank you for watching. I'm John Huxley. I want to fight for change. Let's start a political party, a participatory socialist democracy online. To join us, I ask that you agree that the community should own the stuff we make. Australia for all Australians. I'm anti-materialistic. Should we take any seat, as your leader, I will be paid the average wage. I offer a humble life without any wealth of note. I believe in transparency, that power corrupts, and that money is power. And if those responsible for a broken system are prosperous and doing very well, it seems perfectly reasonable to assume they gained that prosperity through ill-gotten gains. I am no one of note. Join the debate. I will be your mouthpiece with those in power, and I will have to obey your will of the democracy that we set up. Like, subscribe, comment, debate. More than that, get involved, energized. Help me organize a political party where I have to do what you tell me to do. I want one thing that unites us, that we should own our own stuff and benefit from it. It's not rocket science. They did it in the past and we can do it again. Thank you for watching.